Welcome to cyberspace. I'm your host, Leslie Poston, and boy do I have a relatable topic for you today. Last week, an old tweet by author and friend Amber Naslund popped up in which she asked people to stop scheduling meetings just so they can organize their own thoughts with witnesses. And I knew I had to write a podcast about the psychology of why meetings often leave us feeling drained, frustrated, and wondering, was that really necessary? Have you ever sat through a meeting that felt like it was sucking the life out of your soul? Or maybe you've experienced the sinking feeling when you see your calendar packed with back-to-back Zoom calls. Well, you're not alone. And there's actually some fascinating psychology behind why meetings can be so soul-crushing. In this episode, we'll explore the brain-draining effects of poorly structured meetings, why back-to-back meetings feel like running a mental marathon, how to make meetings work for everyone, including our neurodiverse colleagues, survival strategies for global teams battling time zone chaos, some genius hacks to make meetings actually productive, and we'll even imagine a workplace utopia with no meetings at all. Whether you're the CEO scheduling these meeting marathons or the employee desperately searching for the decline button, this episode will give you the psychological insights to transform your meeting culture. Let's get started. Picture this. It's 9 a.m., and you're settling in for yet another meeting with no clear agenda. As the discussion meanders aimlessly, you can almost feel your brain cells crying out in protest. But why exactly do these meetings leave us feeling so depleted? Well, a study by Rogelberg et al. Found that poorly managed meeting can actually decrease job satisfaction and make people want to quit. That's right, meetings can literally make you want to leave your job. I'm sure that's no surprise to many of you. But what makes a meeting poorly structured? No clear objectives. When you don't know why you're there, your brain goes into confusion mode, trying to figure out your role and your purpose. Time mismanagement. If you've ever been in a meeting that feels like it's stretching into eternity, that's your prefrontal cortex getting overwhelmed, struggling to maintain focus and to make decisions. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Having irrelevant attendees doesn't just waste their time, it can lead to decision paralysis and cognitive overload for everyone. The loudmouth effect. When a few voices dominate, it's not just annoying, it can lead to groupthink, stifling creativity and diverse perspectives. These factors don't just waste time, they literally mess with our heads. Elizabeth Grace Saunders pointed out that ambiguous meetings can spike our anxiety levels. It's like our brains are constantly on high alert, trying to figure out what's going on and how to contribute. And it gets worse. A 2017 study by Mraz et al. Found that a high meeting load can actually impact our overall well-being and productivity. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, but for your brain. The psychological toll is real. Allen et al. Discovered that bad meetings can leave you feeling like you've run a mental marathon, hello fatigue, make you feel like a powerless cog in a machine, crush your job satisfaction, and have you updating your resume faster than you could say this meeting could have been an email. Now, we all know the typical advice for better meetings: have an agenda, set time limits, assign roles, but let's be real, how often does that actually happen? And if you're not the one running the meeting, you might feel or be powerless to change things. This is where the real psychological struggle comes in. Feeling a lack of control over your time and mental energy can lead to stress, frustration, and even burnout. And it's not just about wasted time, it's about the toll on our mental health and our job satisfaction. So next time you're in a meeting that's going nowhere fast, remember, it's not just you. Your brain is literally fighting against poor meeting structure. And understanding this psychology is the first step in reclaiming your time and your mental energy. All right, let's talk about everyone's favorite modern-day workday phenomenon, the back-to-back meeting marathon. You know, those days when your calendar looks like a game of Tetris with no breaks in sight. Ever wonder why you feel like a zombie by 3 p.m. every day? Well, science has some answers, and they're pretty mind-blowing. Microsoft's Work Trend Index study in 2021 actually hooked people up to EEG devices to monitor their brain activity during video meetings. Spoiler alert, our brains are not fans of meeting marathons. Here's what they found. Back-to-back meetings cranked up beta wave activity in the brain. In non-science speak, that's your brain screaming that it's stressed out. Without breaks, people showed signs of lower engagement and focus. It's like your brain is saying, I'm checking out. Good luck with that spreadsheet presentation. But here's the kicker. When people took short breaks between meetings, their stress levels dropped and they could focus better. It was like a reset button for the brain. But it's not just about feeling frazzled. The cognitive overload from consecutive meetings can lead to some serious mental side effects. Your creativity takes a nosedive. A study by Opezzo and Schwartz found that your creative thinking suffers when we're mentally drained. Decision-making, good luck with that. Danziger et al. Discovered that the quality of decisions deteriorates over time without breaks. And forget about remembering those action items. Erickson et al. Showed that our ability to absorb and retain information takes a hit when we're cognitively exhausted. So what can we do about this mental meeting mayhem? Here are some brain-friendly strategies. The Pomodoro technique is not just for studying. Francesco Cirillo's method of 25-minute focus sessions, followed by 5-minute breaks, can be a game changer for your meeting schedule as well. Buffering time is your brain's best friend. That Microsoft study found that even 10 to 15-minute breaks between meetings can help your brain reset, like a mini vacation for your neurons. No meeting days. Companies like Asana have implemented entire days without meetings. Imagine a whole day for your brain to actually think and do your job. Mindfulness. We're all sick of it, but it's not just a buzzword. Jha et al. Found that mindfulness training can boost your attention and your working memory. Maybe it's time to start that meditation app you downloaded months ago. A walk and talk. Opezzo and Schwartz discovered that walking can increase creative thinking by 60%. So next time someone suggests a walking meeting, your brain might thank you for saying yes. And here's a fun fact. Video meetings might even be more draining than in-person ones for some of you. Shockley et al. Found that Zoom fatigue is real. So if you're feeling extra crispy after a day of video calls, you're not imagining it. The takeaway, our brains aren't designed for the meeting marathons we're subjecting them to. By understanding the cognitive cost, we can start to design workdays that work with our brain, not against them. And who knows, maybe with a few tweaks, we can all feel a little less like zombies and a little more like the creative, decision-making powerhouses we're meant to be. Let's talk about a critical aspect of meetings that often gets overlooked: inclusivity. We've all been in meetings where we felt out of sync, but for neurodiverse individuals or those with disabilities, this feeling can be amplified tenfold. Imagine being in a meeting where you can't process information as quickly as others, or where the sensory overload is so intense you can barely focus. It sounds stressful, right? But for many of our colleagues, this is their silent daily reality. A study by Kreitz highlighted just how important it is to create inclusive workplaces. But what does this mean for our beloved or not so beloved meetings? Let's break it down with some brain-friendly strategies. Have multiple ways to participate. Roche et al. Found that offering various contribution methods can boost engagement from neurodiverse individuals, from introverts, from people with disabilities. Think chat functions, note cards, or even pre-meeting input. It's like creating multiple pathways in the brain for ideas to flow. Share meeting materials in advance. Lobel et al. Showed this is particularly beneficial for neurodiverse individuals. It gives their brains a roadmap before the journey begins. Have sensory-friendly setups. Hitch et al. Discovered that tweaking the environment for a meeting can significantly improve comfort and productivity for individuals with autism. Imagine trying to focus with a spotlight in your eyes. That's what harsh lighting can feel like for some people. Have closed captions and transcripts. Linder pointed out this doesn't just help those with hearing impairment. It's a boon for anyone who processes information better through text. It's like giving your auditory and visual cortex a tag team advantage. Breaks, breaks, breaks. Hitch et al. Emphasized the importance of regular breaks. It's not laziness, it's brain management. Eye contact isn't everything. Davidson and Begley remind us that for some, sustained eye contact can be incredibly distracting or uncomfortable. It's not rudeness, it's neurology. Clear, concrete language. Sapak et al. Showed that avoiding jargon and abstract language can make a world of difference. Circle back might be a force of habit, but does anyone really know what it means? Predictable structure. Many neurodiverse individuals thrive on routine. It's like creating a familiar neural pathway for the meeting to follow. And remember, these aren't just nice to haves. By implementing these practices, we're not only making meetings more comfortable for everyone, we're tapping into diverse thinking styles that can lead to more creative and comprehensive solutions. It's a win-win for brains and businesses alike. Picture this. It's 3 a.m., you're in your pajamas, you're clutching a cup of coffee, and you're logging into a meeting with teammates scattered across the globe. Sound familiar? Welcome to the wide world of global team meetings. Espinosa et al. Found that this temporal distance can wreak havoc on team performance and collaboration. But fear not, Global Desk Warriors. There are ways to make this work without losing your mind or sleep. Let's dive into some strategies that might make your international colleagues think you're a time-bending genius. The meeting merry-go-round. Schmidtke and Cummings suggest rotating meeting times, like musical chairs but with time zones. Everyone gets a turn at a decent hour by alternating weeks where you have AM or PM meetings. Embrace the async life. Leighton and Invallo found that asynchronous communication can be just as effective as real-time meetings for many tasks. Tools like Asana, Trello, Slack, or even good old-fashioned email can be your global team's best friends. Have a follow-the-sun workflow. Carmel et al. Describe this approach where work is handed off between time zones. It's like your project is on a worldwide relay race. Record, summarize, conquer. Malhotra and Masharak emphasize the importance of good documentation for global teams. It's like creating a time capsule for each meeting that team members can open at their convenience. Collaboration in the cloud. Anders points out that cloud-based tools can reduce the need for real-time meetings. Google Docs becomes your global water cooler. Establish rules of engagement. Kittmaller and Loring found that clear communication norms can reduce misunderstandings, like creating a universal language for your team, minus the confusion. Time zone tools are your friends. Use worldwide clocks and time zone converters religiously. It's like having a time turner minus the paradoxes. Core hours concept. Espinosa et al. Found that having some overlap in working hours can improve coordination. It's finding a global sweet spot where everyone can be on together. Cultural intelligence is key. Zakaria et al. Highlighted how understanding cultural differences can make or break global virtual teams. It's not just about time zones, it's about cultural zones too. AI to the rescue. Tools like XAI can handle the nightmare of scheduling across time zones. It's like having a robot assistant who never sleeps. Remember, the goal is not just to overcome the challenges of global work, but to leverage its superpowers, like diverse perspectives and round-the-clock productivity. With these strategies, you can turn your global team into a 24/7, idea-generating, problem-solving machine. All right, meeting survivors, let's talk about how to turn those mind-numbing sessions into actually productive uses of our time. Because let's face it, meetings aren't going away entirely, sorry to burst that bubble, but we can make them suck less. We can channel our inner Jeff Bezos with the 2-pizza rule. Bezos famously said that if 2 pizzas can't feed the entire meeting, it's too big. And guess what? Mueller found that smaller groups actually do make better decisions. It's not just about the pizza, it's about creating an environment where everyone can contribute without feeling lost in the crowd. For all the introverts out there, I see you trying to hide in the back of the Zoom call. Here's a game changer: silent meetings. Caulfield and Lemon-Wellenbrock found that starting meetings with silent reading time can level the playing field. It gives everyone's brain a chance to warm up before the verbal sprint begins. For our more tech-savvy folks, Watson-Eiger et al. Found that digital collaboration tools can seriously amp up engagement during a meeting. Think virtual whiteboards, polling tools, collaborative note-taking, like turning your meeting into an interactive game minus the annoying microtransactions. And here's a wild idea: stand-up meetings. Not suggesting you do comedy, unless that's your thing, but Knight and Baer discovered that standing meetings were 34% shorter than sitting ones, with no loss in decision quality. It's like tricking your brain into thinking it's at a cocktail party instead of a meeting. And for those meetings that seem to go on forever, enter the Elmo technique. That's enough. Let's move on. It's not just a cute Muppet, it's a way to keep discussions from dragging on endlessly. Your brain will thank you for the focus. Remember, the goal here isn't just to have fewer meetings, but to also make the ones we do have actually worth our brainpower. By implementing these strategies, we can transform our meetings from dreaded time wasters to productive, engaging sessions that actually drive progress. And who knows, you might even start looking forward to them. Okay, I won't get carried away. Now, let's indulge in a little workplace fantasy. Imagine a world where your calendar isn't a battlefield of competing meeting invites. A world where you can actually get work done at work. It sounds like a dream, right? Well, for some companies, it's becoming a reality. Take Dropbox, for example. They implemented Virtual First, with core collaboration hours and no meeting Wednesdays back in 2020. It's like they created a force field around Wednesdays to protect their employees' focus time. Or GitLab, a fully remote company with over 1,300 employees. They built a culture around asynchronous communication and documentation. It's like they're running a global relay race, but with ideas instead of batons. Buffer took it a step further and experimented with a no meetings week. The result? Increased productivity and decreased stress. Although some employees miss the social aspect of meetings, it turns out some people actually like seeing their coworkers. Who knew? Basecamp has long been a champion of the low meeting lifestyle. In their book, It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work, the founders suggest treating employees' time as a precious resource. It's like they're time conservationists in the corporate jungle. Even Amazon, a company not typically associated with taking it easy, has a unique approach. As described in Brad Stone's book, The Everything Store, some Amazon meetings start with 30 minutes of silent reading. It's like a book club, but with more bar graphs and less wine. Now, I know you're thinking, Leslie, this sounds great, but how do I make this work in my company? Well, there are some steps you can take to move towards a low meeting nirvana. 1, audit your current meeting and be ruthless. If it does not need to be a meeting, it should not be a meeting on the calendar. Invest in asynchronous communication tools. Slack, Asana, Carrier Pigeon, whatever works for your team. Document. Clear documentation can eliminate the need for so many update meetings. Set clear expectations. When is a meeting necessary, and when is an email enough? Train your team. Effective asynchronous communication is a skill. Treat it like one. And lead by example. Be the change you want to see in your calendar. And remember, the goal is not to eliminate all human interaction. We're not trying to turn your workplace into a silent monastery. The aim is to make our interactions more meaningful and productive when we do those interactions together. So next time you're about to schedule a meeting, pause and ask yourself, is this really necessary, or am I just organizing my thoughts with witnesses, as Amber Naslund once said? Your team's brains will thank you for it. All right, meeting survivors, let's recap what we've learned about the psychology of why meetings can suck the life out of us. Poorly structured meetings aren't just annoying, they're messing with our job satisfaction and our mental well-being. Our brains are literally crying out for breaks between meetings to reset and recharge. Inclusive meeting practices aren't just a nice to have, they're essential for supporting diverse thinking styles and abilities. Global teams need to get creative to avoid time zone trauma and meeting overload. There are actually science-backed ways to make meetings more engaging and productive. Some brave companies are experimenting with low or no meeting cultures, and their employees' brains are thanking them. Remember, changing meeting culture isn't just about productivity. It's about preserving our mental health and job satisfaction. It starts with understanding the psychological impact and being willing to shake things up. So here's your challenge. Pick one thing from this episode to try in your next meeting. Maybe it's suggesting a walking meeting, or bravely yelling Elmo when a discussion is dragging on too long. Whatever it is, know that you're not just saving time, you're saving brain cells. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the psychology of workplace meetings. Until next time, I'm your host, Leslie Poston, reminding you to protect your mental energy and maybe think twice before scheduling that next meeting. Until next time, stay curious.